We've got a good one for you. A good one all night tonight as we transition from afternoon to evening into night, because it is hockey night in Carolina here on 99.9 The Fan. The Carolina Hurricanes are back in action, and they are not doing the dipping in toe, walk down the stairs. Ooh, it's cold going into the pool of the second half of the season. They are jumping off the deep end.
Straight to the 10-foot section of the pool.
Off the diving board.
Swimming with the sharks, literally, or whales. What are the Canucks?
We're going to get into a debate quickly about marine life. They're playing Vancouver. And just to give you like the base level of the Vancouver Canucks, top scoring team in the NHL on a goals per game basis, second best in the league as far as preventing goals allowed on a per game basis. Number one goals scored, second best in fewest goals allowed. That's what you're dealing with. Number one in the standings across the entire NHL. That's what you're dealing with. Let's hear from Rod Brind'amour, the head coach of the Canes, on what he's looking for in their first game back after the break.
Well, there's always a concern when you have a layoff like that. Just, are you going to start on time? Are you going to, how quickly are you going to get up to speed with where we were left off, which was pretty much how you wanted to do it. So we won't know until we get in there. And obviously you're playing a real good team, so they're going to, I'm sure, get us going right away as well.
Always the same thing. You're always worried about the comeback. Well, this isn't one to be worried about. Like, let's dive in even further, right? I gave you the baseline. Let's dive in even further. Vancouver right now has 3 of the top 10 players in the entire league in points scored. 3 of the top 10. Now, you may be thinking, well, yeah, hey, maybe that doesn't tell me anything. What's it relative to, right? Maybe all of the good teams have 3 or 4 in the top 20. Like, what are you talking about? The Canes right now have 2 in the top 100. Aho, 15th. Jarvis, 79th. Miller, Peterson, Hughes, all in the top 10 in the league. That's not great. Actually, you might argue it is great because you're more balanced and you found a way to be successful, depending on any couple of players. Whatever it is, Carolina has to show up today, and it can't be an ease-in game. There's no tune-up games. You can't afford a slow start. These guys get ahead of you. You might not be able to catch up. Carolina is favored. Give them credit, right? The sports books believe they're the ones that are going to win. They are favored in the game, but it'll take about 2 seconds for those live betting lines. We'll talk more about this March 11th when it all becomes legal in North Carolina. But those live betting lines will sway aggressively if the Canes get off to a slow start. So instead of saying, oh, I'm worried about a dip, instead of saying, oh, I'm worried about starting slow, say, pick up where you left off. Pick up where you left off. The Canes were really, really getting it going before the break. Here's more from Rod Brind'amour, their coach.
Well, I think it was always there. It was just, it wasn't full. The light wasn't on all the way. Like, it was like on dimmer. Kind of know what we got to do, but don't really want to, get to it as well as you have to in this league. And then even when we've got the full light going, it just gives us a chance. And I think we've done that a little better here in the last month. And then you watch the way we play. Every night now, we certainly had, if not better than of the play, certainly close to it. And that's really what had to happen. And it's tough in this league because everybody knows. I mean, we're not going to get judged by how we do in the regular season. It's a great thing to have, but we got to get through this. And we got to really focus on make sure that give ourselves the best chance so we can play in that time of year.
I like the light on a dimmer analogy there.
I mean, heck, if the light was on dimmer for that 6-3 win against the Golden Knights and then the 6-1 win against the Rangers and then the big win on the road at Boston, I feel comfortable. I feel confident now going into this game.
I think what he's talking about is the consistency, right? Because when you're talking Rod Brind'amour, he's not going to get distracted by the flashy wins, right? He's a lifer, you know what I mean? He's a defense-first kind of guy. He wants consistency above all else. And those last 3 games, it was all very similar, right? The last 3 games before the break, what was it? Boston, New Jersey, and then they had a West Coast team, maybe
Arizona.
It was Arizona. That's exactly what it was. they all look the same, right? The 3 goals scored, solid, unbelievable defense. I think he's talking about the consistency, and that's what he's talking about when it comes to the light getting brighter. But it's more than just that, right? Let's look at power play. Power play has scored at least 1 goal in 12 of their last 15 games. You want that to pick up where it left off. Right? And by the way, they won 11 of those games. They won 11-3-1. That's pretty darn good. Right? So you want the power play to pick up where it is. Power play is very much a chemistry thing. It's very much a rhythm thing. Right? You start getting in a rhythm, suddenly you go on a stretch like they did starting about, a month or 2 ago, and then you throw that wrench in the system of a week off, picking that up in the, if they score a power play goal, particularly in the first or second period tonight, I'm going to go nuts. I'm going to go, yes, right? That shows that they're picking up where they left off. Walt Ruff, team reporter, tweeted out that brind'amour has already confirmed Pyotr Kochetkov will make his first start since January 11th. You need him to pick up where he left off, and that's an even bigger break. Right, it's one thing to ask Seth Jarvis to pick up where he left off when, he just spent a week in Mexico. It's a whole other deal to ask Pyotr Kochetkov to pick up where he left off when he's been out of the game since January 11th.
And has sunburn.
From spending time in Florida. Reports came out yesterday on that if you missed it. But he was 7-1-2 since December 12th. And over that time, had over a 92% save percentage. He was playing really good. I feel like we have continued to point the spotlight on the goalie situation. Don't forget where the goalie situation was when Ronta was waived. Right? It was Kochetkov, and he needed to step the heck up. And other than that, they had Yaniv Peretz, who was an undrafted rookie free agent, on the bench. And they basically looked at Kochetkov and said, you have to play every game, and you have to play every game well. And he stepped up, and he played pretty darn well. Not to say perfect, but he played pretty darn well. And then everybody was able to exhale and take a breath. But don't forget how long we held our breath at the beginning of that. So Kochetkov coming back, it's very difficult to say, oh, he'll just come back and be great, when he wasn't great until he absolutely needed to be. So all of that starting back up tonight against Vancouver, who's the best goal-scoring per-game team in the league and the second-best goal-preventing team per game in the league. You need everybody to show up. Your defense has been playing great. You need to continue to play great. Your offense has been opportunistic. You need to continue to be opportunistic. Kochetkov, when he was playing, was pretty darn good in the pipes. He needs to continue to be pretty darn good in the pipes. This is a test of everybody on that roster.
One player in particular I'm looking to have an impact in tonight's game, Maury Natchez. Scoring 4 of the last team's 5 games, or scoring in 4 of the team's last 5 games before the All-Star break. Need him to keep it going.
And that's a good point, because somebody like Natchez, he wasn't playing like that all year. He seemed to have, to use Rod Brind'amour's analogy, the light was getting much brighter for him. But it's not like it had been set there, right? It's not like it had been there the whole time. Or somebody like Orlov, right? The last game of the year, last game before the break, Orlov scores the go-ahead, an absolute rip. I'm looking at that and I'm going, man, I wish they had a game the next day for him to just ride that wave and try to get back to the Orlov that he's been in past. And not saying he's been bad, but he hasn't been maybe what his reputation in the league has been. There was a lot of arrows pointed up that then had to plateau or almost hit pause for a week. And Kochetkov's situation, a month. Now you just want him to ramp back up to that same angle. We're going to learn a lot about how they're going to start this thing coming up tonight against Vancouver, and I'm looking forward to it.